midnight pizza delivery nightmare. You might think pizza deliveries are all about cheesy goodness and quick cash, but this one fateful night turned into a nightmare that I'll never forget. It was a typical Friday night, and the pizzeria was bustling with orders. I grabbed a piping hot pizza box, hopped into my trusty old delivery car, and set off to the address on the ticket. The destination was a secluded house at the edge of town, and as I drove deeper into the darkness, I couldn't help but feel a sense of unease. When I arrived, the house was shrouded in shadows, its windows dark. I double-checked the address. It was correct. I hesitated, considering whether to call the customer, but then a flickering light caught my attention. A dim, eerie glow emanated from the upstairs window. I decided to brave it and knocked on the door. Seconds felt like minutes as I waited in the eerie silence of that remote location. Just when I was about to turn away, the door creaked open slowly, revealing a pale, disheveled man in his 40s. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. His voice was hoarse as he muttered, "You're here." He snatched the pizza box from my hand and handed me a crumpled wad of cash without counting. I tried to make small talk, but he seemed distracted, as if he was listening for something in the distance. As I turned to leave, a sudden, bone-chilling scream echoed from inside the house. My heart raced, and I asked if he needed help or if there was someone else in there. He just stared at me, eyes wide with fear, and whispered, "You need to leave, now." I didn't need any more convincing. I sprinted back to my car, heart pounding, and peeled out of there as fast as I could. That scream still haunts my nightmares. When I returned to the pizzeria, I told my manager about the bizarre encounter. To my surprise, he was familiar with the address and the man. He explained that the customer had been ordering pizzas at odd hours for weeks, always acting strangely. The story took a darker turn when he mentioned that the house had once belonged to a woman who had gone missing years ago. Her disappearance had never been solved, and the house had remained abandoned ever since. I never went back to that house, and I quit my job as a pizza delivery driver not long after. To this day, I can't shake the feeling that something sinister lurked in that old abandoned house. The terrifying tip. It was a chilly Friday evening, and I was working my usual shift as a pizza delivery driver. The night was quiet, with only the occasional order coming in. Little did I know that this particular delivery would be anything but ordinary. I received an order for a pizza with a side of garlic knots. The address was in a quiet suburban neighborhood that I delivered to countless times before. No red flags, no cause for concern, or so I thought. I arrived at the house, a cozy-looking place with a well-kept lawn and a porch light that bathed the front yard in a warm, inviting glow. I grabbed the pizza box and the garlic nuts and made my way to the front door. I knocked, and almost immediately, the door swung open. Standing there was a man in his late 40s, his eyes sunken and weary. He looked disheveled, like he hadn't slept in days. I greeted him with the usual, "Hi, I've got your pizza delivery." But he just stared at me, his expression blank. It was an uncomfortable silence that seemed to stretch on forever. Finally, he mumbled something about the money being inside and gestured for me to enter. I hesitated for a moment, something about the situation sending a shiver down my spine, but I brushed it off as my imagination. The inside of the house was dimly lit, and a musty odor hung in the air. I followed him into the living room, where a flickering TV cast eerie shadows on the walls. There were no signs of life, no family photos, no sounds of laughter, just an eerie stillness. He handed me a crumpled wad of cash and, without saying a word, motioned for me to leave. A As I turned to go, I noticed something that made my heart skip a beat. A set of old, dusty photographs on the coffee table. I couldn't resist taking a closer look, and what I saw sent chills down my spine. The photos showed the man, but he looked younger, happier, surrounded by a family. But as I looked closer, I realized the family in the photos was nowhere to be found in the house. I rushed back to my car, my heart pounding. Something about the whole encounter just didn't sit right with me. I counted the money and noticed something strange. The man had given me a tip, but it wasn't in the form of cash. Instead, he had left me a message on the bill. It read, "They're still here." I slammed the car door shut and sped away from that house, the words echoing in my mind. To this day, I can't shake the feeling that I stumbled upon something truly sinister that night. The night I delivered pizza to hell. Hey guys, it's your boy Bard. And tonight, I'm gonna tell you a scary, true pizza delivery horror story. I used to work as a pizza delivery driver back in college. It was a pretty good job. Easy money, and I got to eat a lot of free pizza. But one night, I had a delivery that I'll never forget. It was a late-night delivery, and I was on my way to this house in the middle of nowhere. The address was weird, and the house was even weirder. It was an old Victorian house with a wraparound porch, and it looked like it hadn't been lived in for years. I pulled up to the house and turned off my car. I sat there for a minute, trying to get the courage to get out. I had a bad feeling about this place, but I needed the money. So I took a deep breath and got out of the car. I walked up to the front door and knocked. No answer. I knocked again, louder this time. Still no answer. I started to think that maybe I had the wrong address. But then I heard a noise coming from inside the house. It sounded like someone moving around. I took a step back, my heart pounding in my chest. I didn't know what to do. Then, I heard the door unlocking. The door slowly opened, and I saw a woman standing there. She was old and thin, with long white hair and pale skin. She was wearing a long black dress, and she had a strange look on her face. "Can I help you?" she asked. Her voice was raspy and old. "I'm here with a pizza delivery," I said. "Oh yes," she said. "Come in." I hesitated for a moment, but then I decided to go inside. I didn't want to be rude. I followed the woman into the house. It was dark and dusty inside, and the air smelled stale. "Where would you like your pizza?" she asked. "Just set it down on the table," I said. She nodded and led me into the living room. The living room was just as dark and dusty as the rest of the house. There was a fireplace in the corner, but it wasn't lit. The woman set the pizza down on the coffee table. "Thank you," I said. "You're welcome," she said. "Now, why don't you stay for a while? We can have a slice of pizza together." I didn't want to stay, but I didn't want to be rude. "Okay," I said. She sat down on the couch, and I sat down across from her. She picked up a slice of pizza and took a bite. "So," she said, "tell me about yourself." I told her about my job at the pizza place and about my life in college. She listened intently, nodding her head occasionally. When I was finished talking, she took another bite of pizza. "Well, it's been nice talking to you," she said, "but I'm afraid I have to go now." She stood up and walked over to the fireplace. She turned around and looked at me. "Thank you for the pizza," she said, "and thank you for your company." I stood up and walked over to the door. "Goodbye," I said. I opened the door and stepped outside. I took a deep breath of fresh air, and I felt a wave of relief wash over me. I made it. I got in my car and drove away, never looking back. I don't know what would have happened if I had stayed inside that house any longer. But I do know one thing. I'll never forget that night.